EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports as we continue to wrap up the 2025 NFL Draft. The Philadelphia Eagles were down at the White House yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about that. We got a great show planned for everybody this morning. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Tuesday morning, brother?
Doing well. Getting through the off season, gearing up for rookie mini camp, and hopefully we can get by some of the nonsense. But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No, and I was a contributor in said nonsense. We will talk about that a little bit. John, I want to talk to you off the bat here. And by the way, we're going to have Ian Cummings on today. We'll have Ian Cummings in hour number 1 to break down the Eagles NFL Draft, the 10 picks that they made. Maybe he knows something about an undrafted free agent. Ian knows everything about everyone, Johnny Mac, when it comes to players. And then we'll have in hour number 2, we'll have Caden Steele. So should be a great show planned for everybody. John, I'm going to start it off with Jihaad Campbell, and we'll talk about the White House. I know everybody who's going to hear your take on that as well. But Jihaad Campbell, yesterday you put up something, a tweet that Albert Breer reported on multiple injuries to Jihaad Campbell's shoulders and knees, and he used the word plural in both accounts. What is your instant reaction or your thought process on that when you hear that? You know, I understand what he said about the Eagles are more positioned to take on that risk, but your thoughts on that when it comes to Jihaad Campbell?
Yeah, and that's what Albert was trying to say, which I've been saying for people that watch this show for years. The Eagles have the, ability, and Howie Roseman has the ability to take on more risk than most other GMs around the league. So nothing new there. Probably shouldn't have conflated Jalen Carter because people took it in all different directions. But, I wrote it's somewhat concerning, the injury. Somewhat concerning. Oh my God! You would. These people lost their freaking minds.
Well, I don't understand why that wouldn't be somewhat concerning.
How could it not be somewhat concerning? Is my question. And it's always my fault, and I do it. And all these people are muted now. So if you're listening, sorry. If you're going to be an idiot, I can't. I try to help. I mean, Albert Breer is one of the best sports reporters in the country. Now, if you listen to this show, you knew going into the draft that there was concerns around the league long before the Eagles talk, or long before I had any inkling the Eagles were going to take Jihaad Campbell. I said there's 2 first-round picks that there are concerns with. There are 2 projected first-round picks, Jihaad Campbell and Will Johnson. And what happened? Boy, that's lucky, huh? I mean, what is wrong with people?
What is your level of concern on those injuries? Because I will say this, I tend to default and believe that the Eagles medical staff does do a pretty good job at this. It doesn't mean they're perfect, and it doesn't mean it's not a concern.
First of all, and let me
what's
say
your level of concern?
First of all, the Eagles changed their medical staff because they had to last year. Nobody knows that. They changed it 3 times since winning the Super Bowl, since winning Super Bowl 52. The Chris Maragos lawsuit destroyed their relationship, and they had to get a new provider because of the insurance issues. So, again, people with no information, and this will extend to the White House, people with no information act like they have definitive knowledge of something. And even if you want to go back to some of the old medical staffs, you remember Sidney Jones? They get that one right? You remember DK Metcalf? They get that one right? In the opposite direction? This is absurd. It happens to every NFL team. But when a reporter like Albert Breer says, and I had the knowledge that there were injury concerns, he actually nailed it down to what the injury concerns were. And they're both shoulders and both knees. Now, you can go over the history both ways. Miles Jack, I say it all the time, went from a top 5 pick to second round pick because people
Right.
were concerned how long he would last. He lasted fine. DK Metcalf. Bunch of teams had him taken off the board because of a neck issue that they thought might be troublesome. He's still going strong. No one's saying it can't be positive. But the fact that this set off a bunch of Eagles fans, because I used the term somewhat concerning. Again, what do people want? Do you want real information or do you want validation? I'm lucky enough that a lot of people on this show want real information.
Yeah, people certainly do on this show.
Then I got morons saying Albert Breer made it up. What the fuck? I don't believe him. Well, why are you reading him then? If you don't want information, don't listen to this show. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I don't give a shit from that standpoint. I don't want those people around. I'm not here to validate you. I'm not here to say, oh, there's no injury concerns with Jihaad Campbell because it makes you feel better. He lasted to where he lasted because there's injury concerns. A bunch of teams don't have the hubris, whatever you call it, that's a bad word, but they don't have the confidence to take a player like that, because if they take a player like that and it goes negative, it could cost them their jobs. That's what it means to hit with a first-round pick. Howie Roseman has an ability, because of Jeffrey Lurie and because of the trust that he has built up, to take these kinds of chances. I've been saying it for years. It's a positive. But I'm not going to sit here and say, Howie was asked about the injury concerns. He was very nebulous about it. He was on, at that time, all we knew about was the shoulder, the one shoulder. But he did say long-term, we don't have a concern. Long-term, he said, specifically, which that set off my antenna, because it might be a problem short-term at the bare minimum. And that probably has more to do with the labrum surgery than anything else. But if there are degenerative issues with the other shoulder and the knees, it could be a problem. It's somewhat concerning.
Yeah, and I think anybody rational would see why that would be somewhat concerning.
Okay.
What is your level of concern? Because I do think that's interesting intel, what you just gave about the medical staff. A most recent draft pick I'd point to would be like Landon Dickerson. He came out with a lot of injuries, and obviously it's worked out there. So I do understand the instances you said as well. But what is your level of concern on the Jihaad Campbell injuries?
It's somewhat concerning. I mean, again, can it be Landon Dickerson? You're right. Landon Dickerson would have been a first-round pick had he not torn his ACL in the SEC championship game, and he tore his ACLs twice. So if he didn't do that, he would have been a first-round pick. The Eagles were confident enough to take him. They thought it was going to be longer term, and Howie's words with Jihaad, than it ended up being. He was kind of forced into the lineup because of injuries, and it's worked out well. Again, Sidney Jones has not worked out well. There's ones that work out. There's ones that don't work out.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of teams that looked at Jihaad Campbell, who was, you saw most mock draft projections, potential top 15 pick. There's some teams that passed over him because of injury concerns. Doesn't make them right, but it happened. Will Johnson went, 47 because of injury concerns. Doesn't make it right. He might turn into be the best cornerback in the draft. But if he didn't have those injury concerns, he probably would have been the top corner selected. I mean, why is this even a thing? Other than a certain group of people want to stick their head in the sand and say, oh, I don't believe that. I can't believe that. It's childish.
Any information, John, on when you think Jihaad Campbell will be on the field for the Eagles? Will it be a missed training camp? Is it a missed preseason? Is it no concern at all, and he'll be ready to go pretty soon? Like, what's the timeline look like?
Surgery in March. He's not going to be out there for a while. He's not going to be out there in the OTAs. He's not going to, other than sitting and watching. He's going to, it's generally a 6 to 12-month injury, which is a wide range, but people are different. So, I don't know why, because he didn't want to talk about it that much. He was asked about it. Howie was asked about it. But which is one of the things about, I'm not even getting to how the Eagles are going to use them, which is going to be certainly more layered than a traditional off-ball linebacker. Not even getting into that, but the assumption that, he'll start week 1 while N'Kobe gets ready. He might not be ready for week 1. So, but long term, what Howie said, long term, the Eagles don't have concerns. Short term, there's some, if you're,
Right.
but I said that doesn't matter.
Smile Monday, baby. Get ready to rumble.
Well, Jeremiah Trotter, get ready to rumble, but
Both of them.
Yeah, I mean, the goal isn't. Cooper DeJean didn't get out there to week 5 as a starter because he had a hamstring issue. It's not the end of the world if he's not ready week 1. It's the end of the world if degenerative issues derail the pick, and even that, it's not. As Albert pointed out, the Eagles are in a position to take a chance that other people aren't. If it doesn't work out, they'll just turn the page and move on. It's not going to be crippling. That's the position they're in, and that's a positive. But I mean, if you don't want information, I don't even understand those people. I don't. They want validation.
They want information. I mean, Twitter's a cesspool with everything like that, and I'm assuming that's where you're getting a lot of that from. Most people here, I believe, want information, and that's why we have such a good fan base, and we've had it for 4 years. So I don't think you got to change anything, John, from that perspective. John, I do want to ask you about the White House. The Birds went to the White House yesterday. What did you think of their trip down to the South Lawn to celebrate their Super Bowl victory publicly on a world stage?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I wish people would, there's very few, the Easter egg hunt, the turkey ceremony, which they pardon the turkey, and celebrating sports teams championships are supposed to be, those are the 3 I can think about that are supposed to be nonpartisan.
Right.
Now, even if you talk about, because of the world we live in, even the Easter egg hunt, people will bring up religion. Well, why this religion? Why not this religion? And turkey hunt. Well, you have to PETA people. Shouldn't be everything.
You always got to placate to somebody, John. Oh my goodness.
Exactly. I wish we can get back to the time. I wish the entire team could have enjoyed it because it's pretty freaking cool, to be honest. But I don't have a problem with anyone. I supported Saquon Barkley yesterday. I'll support Jalen Hurts and everybody else today. I don't have a problem. Other than on a personal level, I feel sad on a certain level that a bunch of guys who earned and what they did and earned that honor didn't get a chance to enjoy it because, to be honest, pressure from others and this stupid childish litmus test. Oh, you can go if this guy's president. You can't go if this guy's president. Similar, and this is where I'll put the 2 together, Jihaad. Grow the fuck up. Everybody doesn't have to agree with you. Both sides of the aisle. In fact,
do you think at all there's any leadership mistake element for Jalen Hurts? Not other players on the team. I think everybody's entitled to make their decision. I happen to think that Jalen, as the leader of the team, has a different set of responsibilities. And when your team gets honored on a world stage, I would have liked to have seen Jalen Hurts up there. It has nothing to do with the politics. I'm not mad at Jalen Carter, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, for all those guys for skipping. I think Jalen, as the leader, should have been there. Do you believe it was a leadership mistake at all for Jalen Hurts?
No, no, I don't. When I talk about football players, and look, this game is very important to me, to people that cover the league, to people that follow the league, certainly to the players themselves. In the real world, it's meaningless. When I talk about football and I talk about leadership from a football sense, I'm talking about football situations. I think one of the problems we're in is people think celebrities should chime in about political issues. First of all, they don't have not everybody. There's a few that engage and try to get educated about certain subjects, but the vast majority don't give a shit about politics. They don't have the expertise to talk about politics. So that's on you if you're a viewer and you expect certain players to lean in a certain direction because of your own personal twisted politics, which again, 90% of the time, similar to Jihaad Campbell, that's how I tied the two together. You have no damn information. So from a standpoint, is Jalen Hurts a leader from a football standpoint? Yes. I have no questions about Jalen Hurts as a leader of this football team. And that's all
I
I
don't
care
question
about.
him as a leader, but I think this was one instance where I disagreed with his style of leadership. That's all.
Yeah, well,
I don't think that makes him a bad leader, though. You know, I put out one thing. And
I'm
oh, you
saying
think he's a bad? I'm like, I don't think he's a bad leader. I thought this was one instance that he could have stood with the dudes who did decide to go, you know, on a public stage.
I'm saying I don't care about anybody on that football team and their opinion on any issue outside football. So is he a leader in the building? Is he a leader on the field? Other than being, you know, and people conflate that. That's one issue I've never had with Jalen Hurts, other than he's a human being. He's not perfect. You know, and people want to, you know, hold him up to that standard. Again, the validation people who get upset when you criticize, you know, poor play or what's going on from that circumstance, or, you know, what's going on with you know, being closed sort of about certain issues and things like that. You know, as long as it involves football, it's open season for me. I don't care. I don't care. Look, these guys are under tremendous pressure because they are public figures. And you saw what happened with Saquon and him getting shit on all over the place. Saquon Barkley, 2,504 yards, offensive player of the year, still getting shit on because of a decision about a nonpartisan event at the White House. So on the other end of the spectrum, you know, Jalen Hurts and his status as one of Time's most influential people, and he's on all these magazines and all these endorsements, and then he's going to get shit on by the other side.
Yeah, but it's not a side to me. It has nothing to do with sides. If Jalen Carter,
I'm not talking about you personally, but surely you see the larger picture.
I mean, I got lumped in with that because I said I would have liked to have seen Jalen Hurts.
Everybody gets lumped in with it.
Right.
Because you're dealing with a bunch of morons, to be honest. So I don't have any problem with any football player who doesn't want to delve into the cesspool of politics, no matter what side it is. None. I don't care. Saquon wants to play golf with the president, and I'll tell you, if Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Barack Obama or George Bush or anybody else invited me on Air Force One, I'm going. Yeah, I'll take a ride. I think it's pretty cool. Doesn't extend to politics to me, but it extends to politics to most people. And, you know, those people are childish and they need to grow up, because everything in life isn't a litmus test for your personal belief system. And too many people think it is. And thankfully, this will go away in 48 hours because those people will be on to the next thing to get angry about, because they're perpetually angry. So thankfully, it'll be a short shelf life.
It will certainly be a short shelf life. It'll be a short shelf life here on this show because we got the great Ian Cummings coming up next here on Birds 365. He's going to break down the Eagles NFL draft class for us. All right, they got 10 new players, plenty of good ones. They got Jihaad Campbell, round one, obviously Andrew Makuba. We're going to talk to our guy, Ian Cummings. He's joining us now here on Birds 365. The draft expert joins us from Pro Football Network. Follow him on Twitter at IC